There comes a moment in everyone's life when the noise of the world becomes deafening, when the weight of expectations, disappointments, and unspoken fears presses so heavily upon the spirit that even the simplest breath feels like an act of defiance. In those moments, you may find yourself wondering where you went wrong, questioning if you've been living for yourself or simply performing in the endless play that others have scripted for you. It's a strange realization that somewhere along the way, you may have forgotten who you are beneath the layers of demands and distractions. And yet, it is in this very discomfort that the seeds of transformation are sown. From the very beginning, life seems to teach us to run toward success, toward approval, toward security. We are told to keep moving, keep striving, keep proving ourselves, but rarely are we encouraged to stop and ask, what do I truly want? Who am I without all the noise? That stillness can be unsettling at first. It forces you to face truths you've buried beneath obligations and self-doubt. It strips away the excuses you've used to postpone your own growth. And as much as it may feel uncomfortable, this is the exact space where clarity is born. The world will not stop to grant you permission to slow down. The demands will not suddenly lessen. The people who rely on you will not simply disappear. But within you, there exists a quiet power, the ability to choose differently, to turn inward rather than always looking outward for answers. It is this shift, this reclaiming of your own attention, that begins to change the entire trajectory of your life. The moment you start listening to your inner voice, you start to see the cracks in the illusions you once believed were unshakable truths. You begin to understand that much of what you've been chasing was never truly yours. The job title, the social status, the approval of people who barely know you, these are fragile trophies, easily lost and never able to fill the emptiness within. You see how easy it is to measure yourself against the wrong yardstick, to believe you are falling behind simply because you're not keeping pace with someone else's race. But what if your race is not meant to be run at all? What if your journey is about something deeper, something quieter, something that doesn't need to be announced or applauded? It is in this space of questioning that you start to recognize the patterns you've been repeating, the relationships you've clung to out of fear, the opportunities you've taken out of obligation rather than passion, the endless cycle of saying yes to others while silently saying no to yourself. You see clearly how these choices have slowly shaped the life you're living now, and more importantly, you realize that if you can shape this life, you can reshape it too. The first step is not dramatic. It does not require you to walk away from everything overnight or declare a grand reinvention to the world. It begins with something much smaller yet infinitely more powerful, choosing to value your own presence in your life, choosing to speak to yourself with kindness rather than criticism, choosing to give yourself the patience you so readily give to others. These choices are quiet, often invisible to the outside world, but they are the foundation upon which everything else will be built. And as you begin to make these choices, you notice subtle shifts. The things that once consumed you with urgency begin to lose their grip. The opinions of people who once had the power to crush your spirit begin to feel less important. You find yourself less reactive to every external event, less desperate to control things that are beyond your reach. There is a freedom in this detachment, a lightness in realizing that you do not have to chase what is not meant for you. You also begin to feel a deeper sense of connection, not to the constant chatter of the outside world, but to the steady rhythm within yourself. You realize that your value does not depend on how much you produce, how much you please, or how much you endure. You are worthy simply because you exist. And when you carry yourself with that truth, something remarkable happens. The world begins to respond differently to you. You start to attract people, opportunities, and experiences that align with your authentic self. It's not magic. It's simply the natural result of living in alignment with who you truly are. It will not always be easy. There will be days when the old patterns try to pull you back, when doubt whispers that you are not enough, when fear tempts you to settle for the familiar rather than risk the unknown. But with every choice you make to honor yourself, you weaken the grip of those old patterns. And slowly, the life you once thought was impossible begins to take shape before your eyes. Not because the world has changed, but because you have. There is a profound shift that takes place when you begin to truly honor yourself, not just in fleeting moments of self-care, but in the deep, unwavering way you live each day. It's in the boundaries you set, in the standards you uphold, and in the quiet decisions you make when no one else is watching. You realize that valuing yourself is not about arrogance or selfishness. It's about respect. Respect for your time, your energy, your heart, and your peace. And when that respect becomes the guiding force in your life, everything around you begins to change. At first, the changes might be subtle. You may notice that certain conversations no longer interest you, that gossip and negativity feel heavier than they used to. You may feel less inclined to explain yourself to people who are determined to misunderstand you. Your tolerance for what drains you begins to fade, and your craving for what nourishes you grows stronger. This is the quiet reordering of your life, a realignment that starts within but inevitably transforms the world around you. One of the most liberating realizations you'll have is that you no longer need to earn your place in anyone's life. You don't need to overextend yourself to prove you're worthy of love or acceptance. You start to understand that healthy connections are mutual. They don't require you to shrink, to silence yourself, or to constantly sacrifice your needs. You see that people who truly value you will make space for you, not just when it's convenient, but because they recognize your worth. This understanding changes how you interact with others. You become less reactive, more intentional. You stop rushing to reply to messages that carry no respect for your time. You no longer overcommit to obligations that leave you depleted. Instead, you begin to protect your energy as if it were your most precious resource, because it is. You see, when your energy is scattered, so is your life. But when your energy is focused on what truly matters, you begin to thrive in ways you never imagined. You also begin to see that not everyone will welcome your transformation. Some people have grown comfortable with the version of you who always said yes, who never set limits, who gave without expecting anything in return. Your new boundaries may unsettle them, even frustrate them, because it forces them to face the ways they've benefited from your lack of self-respect. This can be one of the hardest parts of the journey, accepting that some relationships will not survive your growth. But you also begin to see that losing people who can't honor your worth is not a loss at all. It's a clearing. It's making space for those who can meet you at the level you now stand. And as you clear that space, something beautiful happens. You begin to attract differently. The people who come into your life now are drawn to your strength, not your compliance. They respect your boundaries. Instead of testing them, they see your independence as a strength rather than a threat. These connections feel lighter, more genuine, more sustainable. They don't drain you, they energize you. In valuing yourself, you also begin to notice how much easier it is to say no without guilt and yes without hesitation. You no longer overthink your decisions because you've learned to trust yourself. This trust is one of the most powerful things you can cultivate. It allows you to move through life with confidence, knowing that you can handle whatever comes your way. You stop needing constant reassurance from others because you've built that reassurance within yourself. And perhaps most importantly, you stop rushing. You no longer feel the desperate need to make everything happen right now. You understand that what is meant for you will not pass you by, and that forcing things before their time often leads to disappointment. You begin to savor the waiting, knowing that every moment is shaping you for what's ahead. This patience is not passive, it's powerful. It allows you to move forward with clarity instead of chaos, with purpose instead of panic. When you live this way, rooted in your worth, guided by your inner compass, you find that life feels different. You may still face challenges, but they no longer define you. You may still encounter rejection, but it no longer diminishes you. You may still walk away from people and opportunities, but you do so with peace rather than regret. Because deep down, you know this truth. You are not losing anything when you choose yourself. You are gaining everything. When you reach the point where you truly value yourself, you stop moving through life as if you're constantly auditioning for a role in someone else's story. You realize you are the author of your own, and you alone decide who gets a chapter and who doesn't. This awareness changes the way you speak, the way you carry yourself, and the way you allow others to treat you. You stop settling for crumbs, because you understand that your worth demands a full table. There is a calm confidence that emerges when self-respect becomes your foundation. You don't need to shout it from rooftops or prove it with flashy displays. It's simply felt in your presence. You no longer chase validation because you've built it from within. Your value is not dependent on someone's acknowledgement or approval. It's a truth that exists regardless of who sees it. This is why you stop over-explaining yourself to those who question your choices. You know that people who understand your heart will never demand that you justify your boundaries. And those boundaries become non-negotiable. You start to realize that every yes you give to something misaligned is a no to something that could have truly served you. So you choose carefully. You protect your mornings from draining conversations, your nights from unnecessary obligations, and your dreams from the opinions of those who lack vision. It's not about becoming cold or distant. It's about being intentional with where your energy flows. This intentionality also shifts the way you approach opportunities. You stop leaping at everything out of fear that it might not come again. Instead, you ask yourself, does this align with my values? Does it feel peaceful or forced? Does it honor my growth or keep me small? These questions become your filter, ensuring that what you say yes to is worthy of your time, energy, and presence. And the more you live this way, the more you notice a quiet but undeniable truth. Life feels lighter. The constant pressure to please, to perform, to be enough by someone else's definition begins to dissolve. You wake up without the heaviness of unmet expectations weighing you down. You start moving toward things because you genuinely want them, not because you're afraid of missing out or disappointing others. It's here that you also begin to understand the difference between loneliness and solitude. Before, you might have filled every empty space with noise, people, or distractions just to avoid being alone with yourself. But now, your own company feels peaceful. You begin to enjoy moments of stillness, not as a sign of lack, but as a sign of self-connection. This solitude becomes a space of reflection, of clarity, and of deep renewal. It is in this space that your intuition grows louder, guiding you toward what is truly right for you. Of course, this journey is not without its challenges. There will still be times when old habits creep in, when you feel the urge to overextend yourself, to settle for less, to compromise your peace for the sake of harmony. But each time you catch yourself, you grow stronger. You learn that valuing yourself is not a one-time decision. It's a daily practice, a conscious choice you make over and over again until it becomes second nature. And as it becomes second nature, something magical begins to happen. You start attracting exactly what matches your frequency. The people who respect themselves will respect you. The opportunities that align with your values will find their way to you. The relationships that drain you will naturally fall away. It's not luck. It's the direct result of living in a way that reflects your worth. When you value yourself, you send a clear message to the world. This is the standard. This is the energy I welcome. This is the life I'm choosing. And the world, in its quiet but consistent way, responds to that energy. You no longer have to fight for what's right for you. It naturally gravitates toward you because you've made space for it. As you continue to walk this path of self-value, you notice how your entire environment begins to shift. The energy you once tolerated without question now feels intrusive. Conversations that once entertained you now feel shallow. Places you once frequented now feel like they drain more than they give. It's not that you've become ungrateful. It's that you've outgrown what no longer nourishes your soul. This is the silent, natural evolution that comes when you start honoring yourself. The most beautiful part is that you no longer have to force anything. You don't have to beg for people to treat you well, to appreciate you, or to see your worth. You simply embody it, and those who cannot match it fade into the background. There is no drama, no explosion, just a quiet separation that makes space for better connections to find their way to you. With time, you start to feel lighter, not because life has suddenly become easier, but because you've stopped carrying what was never yours to hold. You are no longer weighed down by the responsibility of fixing others, pleasing everyone, or holding together relationships that crumble without your constant effort. You've learned that love, respect, and kindness should flow both ways. You've learned that you cannot pour endlessly into others from an empty cup. This is where real empowerment takes root. You wake up with the awareness that your time and energy are currency, and you spend them wisely. You understand that every choice you make, every conversation you engage in, Every environment you step into is either investing in your growth or depleting it, so you choose carefully. And in doing so, you begin to experience a new level of peace. A peace that doesn't rely on perfect circumstances, but on your own ability to protect your inner world. People will notice this change in you. Some will admire it, inspired by your strength and clarity. Others might feel threatened because your boundaries reveal the lack of their own. Some will even accuse you of changing, as if staying the same would have been a virtue. But you will understand that change is the point. Growth is the goal, and you are no longer interested in remaining in places that require you to abandon yourself just to belong. Your relationships will transform as well. You will notice that the ones who remain in your life are those who celebrate your growth, not compete with it. They will respect your boundaries, cheer for your successes, and support your decisions even when they don't benefit directly from them. These relationships feel easy, natural, and mutual. They don't leave you questioning your worth, they affirm it. Opportunities will change too. You'll find that you're no longer drawn to things that merely look good on the surface. You've developed a deeper sense of discernment, one that looks beyond appearances and listens for alignment. You don't just ask if something is appealing, you ask if it's right for you. This is a powerful shift, because it ensures that everything you allow into your life supports your well-being, your purpose, and your long-term vision. And perhaps most importantly, your relationship with yourself becomes the most valuable one you have. You learn to trust your own judgment, to soothe your own fears, and to validate your own feelings without waiting for someone else to do it. You speak to yourself with kindness, not criticism. You forgive yourself for past mistakes, understanding that they were part of the journey that brought you here. You celebrate your small wins, knowing that each one is a step toward the life you deserve. By now, you understand that valuing yourself is not just about attracting better things into your life. It's about creating a foundation that can't be shaken by loss, rejection, or disappointment. It's about becoming so rooted in your worth that no one's inability to see it can make you doubt it. It's about building a life where peace, respect, and joy are non-negotiable. When you reach the stage where valuing yourself is no longer a conscious effort but a natural way of being, life takes on a different rhythm. You begin to notice that you no longer rush through your days trying to squeeze yourself into situations that aren't meant for you. Instead, you allow space for things to unfold in their own time, trusting that what is truly aligned will never require you to betray yourself to have it. This trust is powerful. It removes desperation from your choices and replaces it with confidence. You stop chasing people who make you feel like you have to earn their attention. You stop auditioning for love that should have been freely given. You stop bending over backward to prove that you're worthy of someone's respect. You've seen the cost of doing those things before, the exhaustion, the self-doubt, the quiet resentment that builds when you give too much and receive too little in return. Now, you know better. You've learned that anyone who truly deserves you will meet you where you are, without making you shrink or compromise. This deep sense of self-worth also changes the way you handle rejection. Before, it might have crushed you, made you question what was wrong with you, or sent you spiraling into self-blame. But now, you see rejection differently, not as a verdict on your value, but as redirection. You understand that not everything you want is meant for you, and sometimes the no's in life are just making space for the right yes. This mindset keeps you grounded even when things don't go according to plan. You also stop over-explaining yourself. You no longer feel the need to justify your boundaries, your choices, or your goals to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. You've realized that the right people don't need long explanations. They feel the truth in your words and respect the life you're building. The wrong people will twist your words no matter how carefully you choose them, so you conserve your energy and speak only where it matters. Another transformation that comes with valuing yourself is the way you celebrate your own growth. You no longer dismiss your progress just because you're not at the finish line yet. You take time to acknowledge how far you've come, the challenges you've faced, the lessons you've learned, the habits you've broken. You see yourself not just as someone who is striving, but as someone who is already living proof of resilience and determination. Your peace becomes your most prized possession. You guard it the way you would guard a rare treasure, because you know how hard you've worked to earn it. You don't invite chaos into your life just to avoid being alone. You don't let people disturb your energy just because they want access to you. You've learned to sit in the stillness of your own space, knowing that peace is not the absence of people. It's the presence of alignment. And because you've built your life around alignment, the things you attract now feel different. The conversations are deeper, the connections more genuine, the opportunities more fulfilling. You no longer have to fight for a seat at the table. You create your own and invite only those who bring respect, kindness, and authenticity. The people in your life now reflect the love and respect you've cultivated for yourself. This doesn't mean life becomes perfect. You will still face challenges, heartbreaks, and moments of doubt. But the difference is that you no longer crumble under them. You meet them with strength, grace, and clarity, because you know your value is not defined by your circumstances. You know that even in difficult times, you are still worthy of love, respect, and kindness, especially from yourself. When you value yourself, you stop asking the world for permission to live fully. You give that permission to yourself. And once you do, there's no going back. You've tasted the freedom that comes from self-respect, and you will never again settle for anything less than the best, because you know you are the best thing you can bring to any situation. There comes a moment when you look back and realize that everything shifted the day you decided you were enough. There is a certain power in knowing that you could settle, but you won't. That you could give in to the pressure to conform, but you choose to stand in your truth, not when someone else told you, not when life suddenly became easier, but the day you chose to see your own value without needing external confirmation. That single choice changes everything, not because the world instantly transforms, but because your relationship with yourself becomes the foundation for everything else. When you value yourself, you start living from a place of abundance instead of lack. You no longer cling to people or opportunities out of fear of losing them, because you know you will always have yourself. You stop making decisions from desperation and start making them from clarity. You stop letting temporary emotions dictate permanent choices. This is the quiet strength that draws better people, better experiences, and better opportunities toward you. Not because you are chasing them, but because you are aligned with them. The truth is, life will always mirror back to you the way you treat yourself. If you constantly put yourself last, life will keep sending you situations that reinforce that position. If you neglect your own needs, you will find yourself surrounded by people who do the same. But when you prioritize your well-being, when you set boundaries without guilt, when you speak to yourself with kindness and believe in your own worth, the world begins to respond in kind. Self-value also teaches you patience. You understand that not every good thing needs to be rushed, and not every delay means denial. You start to trust the process, knowing that the right opportunities will find you when you are ready for them. You don't need to force connections, manipulate outcomes, or lower your standards just to feel like you're moving forward. You've learned that the best things in life are not just about timing, they're about readiness. And you are willing to wait for what truly honors you. There is a certain power in knowing that you could settle, but you won't. That you could give in to the pressure to conform, but you choose to stand in your truth instead. This power doesn't make you arrogant. It makes you grounded. It allows you to move through life with grace, knowing that you don't have to compromise your dignity for acceptance. It allows you to love fully without losing yourself in the process. It allows you to give generously without draining your own reserves. In the end, valuing yourself is not about building walls. It's about creating a life where you don't have to question your place, your worth, or your right to be happy. It's about showing up as the fullest version of yourself and knowing that the right people, the right opportunities, and the right experiences will meet you there. So hold your head high, protect your peace, invest in your growth, speak your truth with kindness but without apology. And remember, the moment you decide you are worthy, you set in motion a life that reflects that truth back to you in ways you could never have imagined. Because when you value yourself, you don't just attract the best, you inspire it to stay. And that is the kind of abundance no one can take away from you.